Well, hello and welcome back to the Pastor's Q&A. I am Pastor Ryan here again with Pastor Jeremy, and today we have a question about how, as Christians, we should live. Here it is. It says, in light of the cultural context in which we live, how can God's people live lives that are authentic, intentional, wholly integrated, and in tune with God's creation? And here's a couple examples of things that Christians or people in the church often sort of hitch their wagon to or tie themselves to ideologically. The minimalist movement, removing clutter, taking stuff and getting rid of stuff in our lives, getting back to the bare minimum. The FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The hipster movement to buy ethical, local food, even if it costs more. And even the survivalist or the prepper movement that seeks independence no matter what comes by just getting down to the essentials of life and storing them in case of disaster.
Yeah.
So how can we think about some of these ideas as Christians?
Good. Well, obviously, we don't have time to dive into each of those and unpack what's good and what's bad in each one. And so what I think is helpful in approaching those and any other thing like that is have a biblical idea of how we handle what we would call ideologies, which is what those are. Humankind is really proficient at and prolific at creating ideologies. What is an ideology? They're trying to make sense of the world. Figure out who they are and how they can best live in the world to have a more fulfilling life, or some sort of definition that helps them make sense of the world. Because if you don't make sense of the world in some way, you're lost. You're really, really lost. So ideologies are popping up all over the place, either whether they're a trendy, short-lived one or something that actually has some enduring power and it shapes a whole culture and political, construct or something like that. But anyway, ideologies, one of the things that are important for us to realize is that there's two things true about ideologies typically, maybe always, is one is that there's good ideas in there. Common grace. Every good and perfect gift comes from God, and so God's grace is at work not just in people who are believers in Christ, but all over the place. And so there's good ideas that add and help aid the flourishing of man.
And I think you see this in even these four things mentioned here. Is it good to get rid of some of this, not just be a consumer, a mass consumer? Of course it is. America's terrible at that. Is it good to be financially responsible and be a good steward of God's resources? Of course it is. Is it good to try to eat ethically or eat locally or eat healthy? Absolutely it is. Is it good to be prepared in case of disaster? Absolutely. And there's biblical basis for all of those things, but they can easily get out of hand.
Yeah, and so it becomes something that is, there's good there, but there's also flawed. So any ideology has inherently good things, but it also is flawed because it did not come from Sinai. It did not, what the Bible there's a lot in there, but its main focus, the thread throughout the whole Bible is the story of our redemption. How do we deal with our sin, and how are we redeemed? And so ideologies are flawed in that they create their own redemption narrative.
Right.
Who are we? We're people that need to get in touch with the earth and where we're heading. Our eschatology has to do with one day we'll be more in tune, and the redemption is eating healthy or natural food locally, or whatever. And so, is it a good idea? Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's great. But when it becomes your redemption,
right,
that's where it becomes problematic. And people are like moths to a flame. We are drawn to make something other than Jesus our redemption. We are really motivated to do that. And so you want to watch out for that and make sure that you're not replacing this with what is your identity? What defines you? That's a good question to ask. Is how do I know if I'm engaging in a good idea and it's helping my family and helping my community, versus am I kind of lost in the weeds here? And so what do people know me as? They know me as the minimalist guy, or do they know me as a disciple of Jesus?
Yeah.
You know?
What do they find out about you when you first meet somebody?
Yeah.
Do they find out about your diet before they find out about your faith?
Exactly. Yeah, and there's all kinds of things that we could talk about that are good, right?
Yeah.
And Paul talks about this in Romans 14:17, where people are talking about food, right? You know, what do you eat this food or you not eat this food? And he says, listen, the kingdom of God is not a matter of eating and drinking, but of righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. And so we want to make sure that that's where we're anchored. Also, a good sign of whether or not this good idea or helpful idea, partially helpful idea, has become something ultimate in our lives is how we treat other people around us. A surefire sign that you've made an idol out of something is when you demand that other people bow down to it. Otherwise, they're part of the damned. They are not. And so you feel, either internally you feel superior to them. You'll know this, like, you know, here I'm eating my organic burger or whatever, my organic salad, and I look at the person eating fast food and I think, I'm better than them.
Thank you that I'm not like other men who drive through McDonald's.
Exactly. And we do that with food. You do that with politics.
Yeah,
you do that with all kinds of things. We are trying to justify ourselves as opposed to receiving and recognizing that we're justified by Christ alone and that we're on the same playing field with other people. We are both sinners in desperate need of a Savior, and that is the answer. And that'll help us not, because what is, there's a quote that escapes me at the moment, but it talks about how a problem that happens in the human heart is when I look at people who think differently than me, and I remove myself. How does that go? That I remove.
It's you remove them from the company of humanity, and so you stop treating them as humans. And you remove yourself from the company of monsters.
Exactly.
You can't. You could never be so evil as them, and they're just not even human. They're subhuman, and so you can basically treat them however you want.
Exactly. And so likely the person who's trying to eat well is not going quite that far, but where are you on that track? Because if we're inching that way, that's not a good trajectory. And so again, the kingdom of heaven is not about that. It's about righteousness, peace, and joy. And so how do we live? We use wisdom, and you engage in these good ideas, and just make sure you're not making them ultimate ideas, that you're not replacing that idea with your and having that become your redemption story, as opposed to the one that was accomplished by Christ for you, opposed to one that I accomplish with every purchase that makes me feel good about myself because I bought this way, right? Or every whatever plan I kind of have constructed, like listed there. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think one more indicator that I was thinking of is, I think as we're thinking about these things and approaching these different ideologies just in our own lives, as we're seeking to be more minimalistic or financially independent, whatever it is, I think one diagnostic question that we can ask ourselves is, does our desire to do these things, some of which are good things, does it come from a place of peace, or does it come from a place of anxiety? And you can see that in all of these, right? Is my desire for financial independence, does it come from a place of anxiety? I feel that God is really not going to take care of me unless my portfolio looks a certain way, right? Or even the survival prepper movement, you see that, especially in that one,
not
possibly.
Okay, unless it got all that
exactly,
stuff,
If every election is the most important election of our lifetime, and we need to be prepared by this election, or else everything is going to completely fall apart. That's an indicator that you're not approaching this from a place of peace. You're not approaching it from righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. You're approaching it from a place of anxiety and trying to use that to get that sense of peace that ultimately only Christ can bring.
Very good. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, and that is a great way to always daily check yourself on that, because there's so many opportunities to dive into one of these things in conversations on social media, or on the water cooler, or just as you ponder these things. And how are we going to be different as Christians? Because if we're not doing what you just described there, what we end up being is just like everybody else. Touting their ideology better than the others, looking down upon others, and being anxious. We're the age of anxiety, an anxious wreck, trying to find our way to salvation, as opposed to resting in what Christ has accomplished, and then being a beacon of that good news to others. So
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
right. Good. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. And we dove a little bit deeper into this idea of ideologies with our last From the Pastor's Bookshelf podcast, going through that book by David Koyzis, Political Visions and Illusions. And so you can check that out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, same place you can find this podcast as well. You can submit a question on our website, radiantofcamus.org, or find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. We'll see you later.